Hello, and welcome all to this very first episode of what I'm calling the Pondering podcast. Just so you know, this is my third attempt at recording this. Getting a lot of interruptions, but that's okay. This is going to be what it is. It's going to be imperfect, and I'm not using any editing software because I had a bad experience with editing software. No, and I don't feel like we need it. It's okay to say it's okay to pause. We're so used to very quick edits for our ever decreasing attention span. And I think we can all start to return to a slower and more gentle pacing. So if I take my time to get to my next point, I hope that you're okay to stay with me for that. But I don't know how many podcasts whoever is watching this may be exposed to, but there's a very hitting you with facts and hitting you with the truth, almost like you're being assaulted. And so this is going to be very much not like that. So I'm calling it the Pondering podcast, and this is part of my Days of Lore expansion. I took a hiatus from doing anything with my Days of Lore project, but I'm resurrecting her and resurrecting the puppets and resurrecting the different ways that I was using that platform, specifically Patreon, to tell stories. So we'll have a little book coming out this summer and more puppet shows, more stories, and then this, I think, probably monthly offering of this little podcast for you. So the structure, as I currently see it, I'm going to give you a story to start out with, and then we're going to kind of meander, or you're going to follow me as I meander through some of the symbols and some of the archetypes and some of the themes that I noticed in the story. And then I'd like to leave it with, rather than having to reach a set conclusion, or tying it all together and like, this is what it meant, with something to ponder. And I love that word, ponder. I love that quote from the Bible where it says, where Mary was taking the things that she was observing from little Jesus in his childhood, and she kept these things and pondered them in her heart. What a beautiful, beautiful quote that is. And to ponder it's a close to wondering, but there's something even more of an internal process of deep contemplation, and feel like we can use some more of that. That deeply contemplating rather than feeling a need to figure out what the absolute truth of something is. Because in truth, we will never get to the absolute truth of anything. That's not really why we're here. And I envision this going forward with guests who I will love for them to share a story. And I hope it's a story about you. So I would love you to come on and, tell me something, a story that is personal to you. Just checking the mic, make sure it's working. And then we can meander around together that story and see what we are left to ponder. So some of these stories will be myth and fable, and some of them will be stories, fairy tales, and some of them are going to be personal stories from my life, from your life. And this is something very gentle that I hope you can even view this as something that could be part of your meditation practice. So, the whole premise of podcasts is really interesting to me, that you're basically putting somebody else's voice into your field of energy and kind of digesting what they have to say, but they're also digesting information. So I think I am feeling very mindful of what I'm putting out for you to digest. And I read something recently about the nature of thoughts, that they are sort of living beings almost, or forms that surround us almost as if like air. We can't see them, but they're just as real as air. And when we think, we're actually breathing in a way with our brain, with our mind. So we're breathing in thoughts, and they become dead in a sense in our mind. And so when we're then breathing out through words or through whatever ideas that form from these thoughts, that in most cases it's become something deadened and something that isn't really coming from us. It's coming from the outside and kind of informing. And that made so much sense for me, especially as regards to a experience I've had. We'll go into it in another episode, but it was an astral projection experience, and I can say it. I was like, aha, okay, that's. I think one of the things I was experiencing is that there's a field of junk thoughts, kind of, in a way, that surround us, because we're kind of spewing out constantly, mindlessly and unconsciously, thoughts that we haven't digested properly, thoughts we believe are coming from ourselves, but they're actually not. All that to say is I do not want to be one more voice that is mindlessly spewing out thought junk. So I would like this to be a very intentional offering, and as I said, something that you could even consider to be part of your meditation practice. So with that little introduction, I'm going to share. I had at first wanted to share my my own kind of very, very condensed little biography. The camera's doing something weird. But instead, I feel like that might be better for another time. Maybe the next episode, we'll see if I can even get this one uploaded, and if the technology gods are with me or against me. They're usually against me. So let's see if they're with me. And then we'll go forward with that story. But for today, I'm choosing this little story that I wrote when I was like 12, I believe. And it's very short and very simple. So here's the story, and it's called The Seeker of Truth. There was once a young man who wanted to be the greatest and the best at all that he did. He wanted to be the strongest warrior, the fastest runner, and the cleverest of the clever. One day he saw a group of people gathered around a wise man, and the wise man was speaking about many things, and the crowd around him was listening so intently. But the young man thought, what is it that this man is saying? And the man was saying that of all things that a human should strive for, the most important is wisdom. Well, this young man thought, I would like to be the wisest of the wise. I want to be surrounded by people listening to my wisdom. And so he asked many people and heard of a wise man that lived far away, and he journeyed all the way to this wise man. And he knocked on his door, and the wise man was a little man who was a little scruffy, maybe a little disheveled. He said, yes, how can I help you? The young man said, I am a seeker of truth. I am a seeker of wisdom. I want to be your disciple and your student. And then I want to be the wisest of the wise. And so the wise man said, come in. I was just making some tea and some lunch. You're welcome to join me. Let's eat and have some tea. The young man said, no. I'm fasting. I'm ready to begin my studies right now. I have no need for eat or drink. And the wise man said, very well. We shall begin at once then. And he said, sit down. Now close your eyes. And the young man closed his eyes. And after a few moments, the wise man said, "Open your eyes and tell me what you see is in my hand." And the young man said, "I see a white rose. You're holding a white rose." "Yes, but look more deeply. What else is there?" "Just a white rose," said the man, "nothing more." "But tell me, how many petals does it have?" The young man tried to count. It seemed there were about 15, maybe 16. Yes, there were 16 petals. "Is there anything else you can tell me about this rose?" "No, nothing at all. It's a white rose with 16 petals. There's nothing more to say." "And you are absolutely sure of this?" "I'm absolutely sure," said the young man, getting annoyed. And with that, the wise man shook out the little silk white napkin that he had folded ever so carefully and gave it to the young man. "Now, you can use this napkin to wipe your mouth after you join me for some tea and food." So that story, what came up for me in telling it is that, yeah, it kind of goes with the theme of pondering. When we are new, when we're young, when we are just starting on our journey, and I am speaking now specifically to people who are on a spiritual journey of some sort, and of course, that's everyone, because you are whether you realize it or not. But if you're consciously on that journey, it's very likely that you discovered something that ignited your first few steps into a spiritual practice, or discovering and delving into the esoteric mysteries. And it's likely that I'm certainly talking about myself as well. It's likely that you felt so excited and so like, this is it, I found the truth, that you probably wanted to share that with everyone. Like, this is it. And that can often be received in a way that's then quite jarring, because in fact, what you're doing when you want to share the truth that's touching you is, and it's a very common reaction, but you're kind of invading other people's space in a way, energetically. And yeah, you're forgetting that they have their own path and their own journey. And those who want to be on the same kind of path that you're on, they will find you. And sitting in that patience and that trust that they will find you. That can be difficult, because you can really, when you've had that moment, especially as a young person, where you find the thing that sparks your heart to open. And the bigger picture of all of this starts to vary just a little bit, really. It's just like this tiny little moving of the curtain, but that it feels like the whole universe has suddenly opened up before you. And it's so difficult to not want to share that. It's natural. So that's one of the things that came up, is that character was in some ways personifying that lack of patience that a young initiate, if you will, can often have. And of course, the fact that he was fasting and kind of not wanting to have any, wanting to be pure. I've met so many people in that state where they are like, so zealously vegan, for instance. It's such a, it's a very sweet and tender phase that we go through in our journey. And in some ways, I see that that's very much an element in our collective journey right now. When you see all of them, when we're talking about cancel culture, for instance, and what's being termed, wokeism or whatever, and but then you've kind of got this Christian right rising up, and really what I see is young people, whether they actually are young or not, but it's a young person, it's a youthful pitfall that is so common on the journey, is that, you feel this, just so convinced that you are in truth, and then anything that would appear to be not of that must be bad. And you've got to voice it. You have to tell people. So it's very so whether it's, this kind of new, I don't know how to describe it, but there's definitely this thing with Christians that are, anything mystical is New Age. And tarot's evil, and this is evil, and that's demonic, and this is demonic, and I get it, because it's like they've found something that, at least right now, is making them feel safe. It's making them feel like, oh, I can rest in this. This is the truth. Here, now I found it. And then anything that is then perceived as not being part of that is very much like a threat to this newfound joy and peace. And then you have the same thing on the other side. Of course, there are no sides really, but we believe that there are sides. We have to believe that there are sides in this self-telling, self-perpetuating story that we're currently a bit stuck in. So as I said, I see this very much as being part of the growing process for humanity, and we're kind of in that kind of tender, definitely associated with adolescence period, where you feel like you're in the right, and if you meet somebody that is not following the rules as you see it of the structure you've found that's giving you a sense of being right, then they are perceived as wrong. Necessarily, they are wrong. And if they're wrong, they need to be called out on it, you know. So yeah, when viewed from just a little bit of a few steps back, and then when viewed from the perspective of the life of one human being always being a microcosmic reflection of the journey of humanity as a whole, you can see, if you think back to your own adolescence, or maybe you are an adolescent right now watching, that would be awesome. And then you apply that self-knowledge and that understanding and compassion, hopefully, that you have for yourself when you were in that phase. And you apply that to the rest to humanity as a whole, as we go through our evolutionary process, and we are what I believe we are in kind of early adolescence right now. If we were going to look at the apocryphal, changes of humanity, I would say we're in a kind of a adolescent phase. And it's easier then to have compassion and understanding and also a sense of, in some ways, peace, because as a human being goes through a process and you accept that certain things are likely to come up, certain phases are likely to be gone through for each individual, applying that to all of humanity, it doesn't seem like this dire catastrophe. It seems like a very natural process. Now, where a lot of people struggle is they want things immediately to be great, you know. They want humanity to wake up and be adults right now, and we're not. The majority of us are not. And we are not going to be there in your lifetime, sorry to tell you. Okay? The entirety of humanity is not going to grow up in your lifetime. So, you're not going to evolve to 5D. It's not happening. Or not in the way that you think. It's not going to look the way you think. This is a very, very long process. But it's okay, because remember that you're also an eternal being. We all are eternal beings. So we shouldn't get hung up on the fact that this isn't happening as fast as we would like it to happen. It's happening exactly as it should, exactly as at the pace that it must. Does anything else come up with this story? Yeah, for now I feel like that's where it was striking me this time, retelling it. So, what shall we ponder? Let's ponder on that sweet, imperfect, adolescent being that is still inside of you, that was you, that is still you, that is currently being very embodied in the collective consciousness right now. And let's think about that being, feel about that being, ponder about that being within us, within the collective, and feel deep respect. I was going to say compassion, but no, respect that being for who it is now and who it will become. Respect it within you, even though you have outgrown some of those tendencies. Respect what they were and why they were important at the time. Now respect that same being, that same impulse that is being reflected in the collective conscious. Yes, we must move through it. It is not where we will be in later stages of development, but it is an important phase that we are in and should be respected as such. And lastly, let's just ponder that white rose. No more, no less. Just ponder that white rose. Till next time.